Hello, welcome to ONTIC's Connected Intelligence Podcast. I'm Fred Burton, ONTIC's Executive Director of Protective Intelligence. This podcast offers valuable insights and practical advice to help you navigate the complexities of modern corporate security shared by leaders and innovators in the field. Now, on to the discussion. Hi, I'm Fred Burton here today with Brad Thor. Brad is the #1 New York Times best-selling author of 25 thrillers, and I've read them all, including Spy Master, The Last Patriot, Blowback, and Black Ice, widely praised for their realism and insight into modern threats. He has served as a member of the Department of Homeland Security's Analytical Red Cell Unit and regularly lectures law enforcement and security organizations on emerging and future threats, including as a keynote speaker for the National Tactical Officers Association. To support the meticulous research Brad has embedded with the intelligence and military professionals, including shadowing a Black Ops team in Afghanistan while researching the Apostle. Brad, welcome to the ONTIC Connected Intelligence Podcast.
Fred, this is always the highlight of my year because it means my work is done. I finished a book and I get to discuss it with you. Thanks for having me back.
My pleasure. Before we get started, I do again want to thank you for all the support you've given me over the years, whether it be in Blacklist or Spy Master. You've really been a very kind and generous friend.
Well, you know that on my list of my top 10 favorite books, Ghost is right up there at the top. So I'm a big fan of yours as well and grateful for the service that you've rendered our great nation. Because as I like to say, there is no American dream without those willing to protect it. So thank you for what you've done on behalf of me and my family, Fred.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you, my friend. Let's jump right in here. What was the real world spark or question that led you to write Cold Zero with your co-author, Ward Larson?
It's a great question. And I think maybe I'll take a second and just let the listeners and viewers know what Cold Zero is about. So essentially, Cold Zero is about a scientist from a nation outside the U.S. that's hostile to the U.S. that has developed a revolutionary piece of tech. And he's got the prototype and he's decided that he does not trust his own government with this piece of technology and he wants to defect to the United States. So the CIA has figured out a way to extract him from his home nation, and they go through a lot of work to get him out. They've got him on a commercial aircraft, and as the plane is midway to New York, it goes down. And there is a rush on to this remote spot at the top of the world to not necessarily look for survivors, but to recover this prototype. So it's the Russians, the Chinese, and the Americans are all rushing there. So I became fascinated. I love aviation. And when I saw that more airlines were starting to fly polar routes, so they were cutting time and fuel and things like this by going up over the North Pole, I thought, wow, that's fascinating. And we've never lost an airplane up there, much less a commercial aircraft with civilians on it. And I thought, wouldn't that be interesting if a commercial aircraft went down? And so then the thriller writer in me kicks in and says, what if there was something really critical that was on board that airplane when it went down? And that's what drove the idea for me with Cold Zero.
Wow. Amazing plot. Now, Brad, you're very well known for your deep research in these issues. What elements of real intelligence tradecraft did you want to get exactly right in Cold Zero?
Well, so first of all, this is my first ever co-written thriller. This is a book that I knew I was not going to put in the Scott Harvath universe. And I am fortunate enough to be on contract to write one Scott Harvath book a year for Simon & Schuster. So I knew if I wanted to get 2 books out in a year, I've done that before. I did it once in my career. I wrote the Athena Project about an all-female Delta Force team. The same year I was writing a Harvath book. And that
was a good book, by the way.
Thank you. I was very proud of it, still am. It took a lot out of me. And I looked over at the end of writing 2 solo books in 1 year, and my dog had aged. All of a sudden, my dog was gray. It's the weirdest thing. I don't know if I wasn't getting the dog out for enough exercise or what. And I said, okay, I would like to try to do a co-written thriller. So back to your question, Fred, I realized that since this was going to be a commercial aircraft that goes down in the Arctic, I really wanted someone who knew this stuff inside and out. And I talked to my my editor, and she said, "Well, listen, what you want to do is make a list of 10 writers, people you love to read, and then you need to meet all of them." And see if you don't know them already, you got to spend some time with them and see, because you're going to spend more than a year working with this person on a book. And I'm a big fan of Ward Larson, who is my co-author now on Cold Zero. And Ward is a former, I love the A-10 Warthog, and he was a fighter pilot. He flew the A-10, and he's a commercial pilot right now. He's about to retire from Southwest Airlines, and he's a brilliant thriller writer. He understands the space. And so by bringing Ward on board, that rhymes. I didn't realize that till now. But bringing Ward on board, I didn't have to worry about knowing the ins and outs of commercial aviation and how that works. And also, Ward knows military aviation. So if this plane went down and you were going to send any U.S. military assets, particularly airborne assets, to the Arctic Circle, where would those come from? What would they look like? Ward tells a great story about how we were writing the book, and he had the other pilot with him on a flight was somebody who works for the Air National Guard out of New York, the unit that flies the C-130s on skis. The only C-130s that you can land really in the ice and the snow because of the skis. And so he learned a lot and ended up using that for our book. My input on this, Ward went through SEER school as well. So weather survival is something he knows a lot about. And I've written about the Arctic before. I was lucky enough to get introduced to someone who trains the SEALs in Arctic warfare and cold weather survival. So that's kind of how we came together in this. But so for my end, it's a lot of tradecraft stuff. It's a lot of speaking to people in the law enforcement community, the intelligence community, the diplomatic corps. And then it's all of the stuff that I've built over the years. And then going back to some of those people, particularly my cold weather survival experts for this, because the whole thing basically takes place above the Arctic Circle.
Well, Brad, I can't tell you the number of just operators and protectors that read your thrillers, and they greatly look forward to the Harvath book every year, obviously. So this is really going to be very interesting. And I have no doubt it's going to be in many, many follow cars, down rooms around the globe. Brad, the threat environment today feels more fragmented and unpredictable than ever. Seems like the world's on fire. How did that reality shape the threats in Cold Zero?
Well, for the longest time growing up, Fred, I thought it was a blessing, the Chinese saying, "May you live in interesting times." It's not until very recently, the last decade, that I realized that's actually a curse. Interesting times are not good. They're not good in the protection world. They're not good in the world of economics. Same stuff all the time is good. Boring is good. Excitement is not good. Maybe excitement in your marriage in little doses is good, but boring is better. We want to know that when we put our children on the school bus in the morning, when the school bus comes back in the afternoon, our kids are getting off. We want to know that certain established standards, whether they're codified in law or not, are going to be adhered to, whether that be in government, whether that be in the world of finance, so on and so forth. We can't operate at peak performance if we're constantly being bombarded with rule breaking, norm shattering, law breaking, those kinds of things. So I think the last 10 years, particularly for me, politics is my baseball, particularly geopolitics.
We'll get back to the conversation in just a moment. But first, I wanted to let you all know that there's an easy way to stay informed about ONTIC's upcoming events and new resources. Subscribe to our monthly newsletter to get updates sent directly to your inbox. Join the 20,000 plus security professionals who are already receiving these insights and sign up today. The link to subscribe is in the episode description. Brad, in Cold Zero, several characters are forced to make high-stakes decisions with incomplete information. What were you hoping to say about decision-making under pressure?
Well, as anybody who's listening to this podcast or watching that's ever been in a position that has to make decisions under pressure, you'll never have all the information. And so you go with a certain degree of certitude, a percentage, where this percent sure X is going to happen, or this person of interest is going to be at location X at a certain time. What I try to do, Fred, with the books, back to when I thanked you for your service, I really like to show the men and women who are out there away from the flagpole doing some of this nation's most dangerous business, and how difficult the decisions they face are, and how much that weighs on people, and how these people perform under pressure, how we give them the best training possible, we put the best people in the room, and then we trust that they're going to make the best decisions possible with the information they have at the moment. And that's a lot of variables that go into that mix, and it's extremely difficult, and you're going to have competing opinions. You put more than 3 people in a room, and it's rare you get everybody to agree. You know, I look back on what was involved in the Bin Laden raid in Abbottabad, and I'm stunned. I am stunned by the brilliance, the courage, the talent, the hard work of every single person that was involved in that operation. And the idea that we could touch down a couple of helicopters half a block away from their version of West Point and not draw out, their equivalent of the 101st immediately. It is one of the most daring, most awe-inspiring operations in the history of warfare. And there are a lot of people and a lot of tough choices and tough calls that had to be made leading up to that incredible moment. And of course, during the actual operation, a lot of difficult things, whether it was blowing that helicopter in place and so on and so forth. So to reflect a little bit of that real world stuff is what I try to do as a thriller author. I want to take you up to the edge of the hedges and let you peer over as a civilian, somebody who hasn't been in those worlds, and let you get a peek of what it looks like on the other side.
Well, you always do a tremendous job with that, Brad. And as you were explaining that, my mind flashed back to when I was a young agent sent in 1988 for the C-130 that crashed in Kuala Pakistan, killing President Zia of Pakistan, our U.S. ambassador, and a U.S. Army Brigadier General. And Brad, I can remember standing there looking at where the impact was, and we were an aircraft carrier away from any kind of real help. And, um, you're trying to make up the rules as you're going along, really not knowing where to start. And I think that that's one of the things that you always do with your books better than anybody is put, whether it be Harvath or now with Cold Zero, put operators in these places where they do have to make these hard decisions.
Yeah, I think number one, my job is to entertain people. That's my purpose with these books, and that's my number one goal. If it's toes in the sand, book in the hand, I want you to have a great white knuckle thrill ride experience. If I've done that, I've done my job as an author. If you as a reader walk away with a greater appreciation for what those protectors in our lives do, whether it's private sector, whether it's government, if you walk away with a better appreciation for their jobs and what they face, and more gratitude for what they do for us, unseen, largely unseen, day in, day out. If you walk away with that kind of appreciation, then I've done my job as an American. That's the icing on the cake for me.
Brad, as you look at Cold Zero, which is a tremendous thriller, what's next? Are you going to continue? Or I don't know if you can say at this juncture, and I know it's very difficult in the midst of a book tour to kind of put you on the spot, but I've known you long enough that I feel I can put you on the spot.
Well, so one of the things that we're super excited about is the fact that Netflix is turning Cold Zero into a massive blockbuster movie. So we're thrilled with
awesome.
That. Yeah,
it's amazing. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you. Pete Berg is our producer, along with Ezra Emanuel. And Pete Berg did 2 of my favorite movies, Lone Survivor, about the Marcus Luttrell story. Pete produced and directed that. And then he also did, back in 2007, The Kingdom, with Jamie Foxx and Jennifer Garner.
I did not know that.
Yeah, about responding to that I guess you would call it kind of an expat American residential community in Riyadh that gets, I believe it was Riyadh, that gets bombed when Americans are out playing softball. I think they were even celebrating like the 4th of July or something like that. And there's a series of bombings there. And that was Pete's movie. He's done Friday Night Lights. He's got a great series on Netflix right now called American Primeval, which is fabulous. And then Pete brought in a great writer to write our screenplay, Nick Pizzolatto, who created the HBO series True Detective and then adapted the screenplay for the last version of Magnificent Seven with Chris Pratt. So great team. So that's exciting. I joke earlier when I told you that I had a list of 10 people, potential co-authors. And my joke is that once I'd met with everybody, I went down the list and there was only one person that fit my version of Scandinavian DEI, and that was Ward Larson. So I figured, well, I got to help the Scandi brother. So Ward got the gig. And so the joke going forward with the movie is, and whether or not we'll do any more books in the series is, I want Rebecca Ferguson to play Casey Sheridan in the movie. And if Rebecca Ferguson takes the lead and plays our CIA agent, I don't know who'd play the co-lead, the male, but if Rebecca Ferguson takes it, I'll keep writing as many books as she wants me to.
Well, that's fabulous. Well, if you need any extras or somebody that needs to be like set on fire or tossed off a roof, you do have my number. I do. Yes. I've told Jack Carr the same thing.
Oh, that's funny. Well, yeah, listen, I've seen, I still remember to this day. So when I was watching Homeland and saw your book in the background of Homeland, and that was super, super cool. And Howard, so on the Harvath books, I just got to see on the airplane a couple days ago, I got to see the pilot for our TV show. And Howard, who did 24 and Homeland, is our executive producer. The John Wick director is our director. And then Steve Lightfoot, who wrote the Punisher series on Netflix, is our writer. So we not only have a movie going for Cold Zero, but we've got the TV show finally going for Harvath. So it's a lot of Hollywood stuff happening. And
do you have a actor to play Harvath yet, or is that still in negotiation?
Not until the studio green lights. Originally we were going to do Lines of Lucerne as our first season.
Oh, I love that. I love that book. You know that. I've told you that a zillion times.
I know, and I appreciate that. And it's the origin story of Harvath. But our studio said, listen, we've gotten feedback on a couple of other shows we're doing, and we'd rather pick up Harvath midway in his career. So we went back and rewrote the pilot episode, and that's what I just got to see. So they have to sign off and say, okay, yeah, you guys know what you're doing. We like this. Okay, this is what our season's going to be. And then once they sign off, then we'll be able to start doing location. We'll know what the budget is. We'll start location scouting, and then we can start casting. But it's kind of good because originally we were going to take Harvath right out of the SEAL teams. Now we're taking him midpoint in his career, working for a private intelligence agency. So that's a different age. So that's why they don't cast until they're certain what the actual TV season looks like.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, my goodness, I can't wait for that. Now, Brad, as we finish up here, we ask every one of our guests this question. What does connected intelligence mean to you?
So, it's very interesting because you've asked me this question before. So I'm going to go back to my theme from earlier. So connected intelligence, as much as I'm interested in technology and the rapid dissemination of intelligence between partners or organizations that share in it, I'm going to say connected intelligence in this sense. I'm going to look at the human factor here. And connected intelligence for me at this moment in time means the ability to fully trust your partners, that it's a two-way street, and that trust is not expected, that trust is earned. And without that trust, you are not going to get connected intelligence. You're not going to get the full open the spigot exchange back and forth. So that at this moment in time, I have to go back and listen to earlier podcasts to see what I've said about connected intelligence in the past, Fred. But right now, connected intelligence is definitely a human thing, and it involves a fulsome, open, mutually respectful partnership with the people with whom you're sharing said intelligence.
Great. Now, you're in what cities coming?
I'm in Tampa tonight, Houston tomorrow night, it's Phoenix or Scottsdale, and then Palm Springs, and then Fort Myers, and then Tucson. So all the tour information is at bradthor.com.
Awesome. Well, Brad, as always, I want to thank you for being on the OnTick Connected Intelligence podcast. And I'll end with this. If you read one Brad Thor thriller and Ward Larson, you will be a fan for life. Trust me, I know.
Thank you, Fred.
Thanks for listening in. To find more episodes, visit us at ontic.co/podcasts. Don't forget to rate and subscribe on your streaming platform of choice. Know someone who would be a great podcast guest? Or have questions you'd like us to answer? Email us at podcast@ontic.co. This episode was produced by AJ McKeon, and I'm Fred Burton. Thanks for listening.